Trish and Rob McGregor welcome you to a place where all kinds of phenomena flourish. Voices whisper ancient secrets, signs and symbols are abundant. UFOs, ETs, ghosts, and even the dead move about freely. Here we meet authors, researchers, and investigators of the mysterious, the strange, and of the inexplicable anomalies that surround us. Step out of the everyday world and take a journey into the mystical underground.
Welcome to the Mystical Underground. Thank you for joining us. This is Rob McGregor
and Trish McGregor.
And our producer and tech magician, John Posey. You can go to themysticalunderground.com where we make regular blog posts and where you can find out about our books. Among them are Phenomena, Harnessing Your Psychic Abilities, The Secrets of Spirit Communication, Sensing the Future, and Aliens in the Backyard. Our latest book is called Mind-Blowing Synchronicities, the latest science, stories, and research. Trish's latest novel, or upcoming novel, is Silent Thunder, and Rob's most recent novel is called Tulpas, a story of mysterious beings created through a deep meditation. If you are watching us on YouTube, we would appreciate it if you would take a second to click the like, subscribe, and notification buttons so you never miss an episode. If you prefer to listen to the show, it is available wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe there.
Our guest today is Dr. Scott Guerin, an award-winning and best-selling author and educator with a passion for exploring the mysteries of God, the universe, and relationship with humanity. That's a big order. With 2 master's degrees and a doctorate in human development, he spent 23 years as an adjunct professor in psychology at Kean University. His popular Angel in Training series highlights society's shift from organized religion to spirituality. He's the author of several books, and the latest is Awkward Awakenings, Finding Our Way Home, which invites readers to awaken to their divine nature and their galactic heritage. He includes exercises and meditative techniques to help readers access higher dimensions and embrace connections with intelligent life beyond Earth. Welcome, Scott. It's good to have you back.
Welcome, Scott.
Welcome. Thank you for having me back. I was here, a couple years ago with my
I thought, we weren't
looking
sure.
for Angel's book. Yeah, a year and a half. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, this book has a really unusual title. What is an awkward awakening? Please explain that.
Well, the awkwardness is all about a paradigm changes and new things, right? And so what I feel is, and I'm sure you've probably heard from your guests, just this idea of awakening, ascension, Earth's humanity is on a path.
Right.
And that's what really captivated me. And really, I was kind of given this book as an assignment to do. It was I had an Akashic record reading.
Oh,
first time ever.
Yeah,
first time ever for me. I booked this person, and basically in that reading, she was saying, so you're thinking about a book? I'm like, this is a little over a year ago. I said, yeah, maybe, maybe it's about awakening. I don't know. And she goes, that's it. That is the book.
Oh, wow.
And she says, your guides and angels are giving you a scroll, and that scroll is a book. And for the next several months, you're going to learn what this book is about and write about it. And so it was, and obviously the awakening. But the thing is that I believe, from the psychologist side of me and human development side, there's things that, humans don't like change. And we
really?
resist it at every step of the way. But now the things that are happening in this world today, you turn on the news and you can see the beginnings of a change. But so the part of the awkwardness is where humanity is going. We're shifting from organized religion to spirituality and psychic services, and more people are meditating on the planet than ever before. And so it's new, And so that part is one part. And the other part is that it's the idea that once humanity reaches a certain level, a certain vibrational level, emotional level, a oneness, unity consciousness, of oneness, and that we get that we're all divine. We're all extensions of the divine. Once we get that, we'll certainly start treating each other with more respect. But once that happens, that's when our connections with our galactic neighbors will commence. So the so-called first contact, is what people talk about, but it's not really the first, right? We all there's so much information out there. I mean, like, let's just call it, right? There are ETs. They've been around for millions of years on the planet. Now they're becoming more popular in a sense with a lot of the whistleblowers. I don't know if you saw the last September 9th hearing. Now that the whistleblowers in the military are being protected, they're coming out. So the first contact from my perspective is the open contact, the open for business contact, the commerce, the knowledge exchange, space travel, all that stuff is going to be, will be part of the play. We'll be part of as one governing organization is as identified as the Galactic Federation.
Scott, let's go back a little bit.
When's this going to happen?
Well, that's the thing.
I mean, before we die?
Well, we missed it like a few weeks ago. The world was supposed to end, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So not then. But I think it's a gradual thing. And the thing is, we don't know, and I don't think anyone knows, because it's all up to us. It's up to us. Are we going to embrace the divisiveness, the anger, the hatred, or are we going to allow this awakening to take over? So at some point in time, and there's another couple indicators that say soon, but soon could be right. Hundreds of years. You don't know.
What about this comet, supposed comet?
Yeah,
it's headed toward.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's all different things, all different thoughts about it. I haven't spent a ton of time into it because no one really knows, and all conjecture. But what it does remind me of how fear-based we are as humans. Back in the 12th century, right? They see a comet in the sky and like, that's it. It's going to be
We're done.
A comet. Yeah. Or the first, I always like to say I think the first movie about flying saucers was called It Came from Outer Space. Outer space. And, a flying saucer lands in the desert. What do we do? We send a Jeep with a machine gun and we start shooting at it, right? Because it's got to be evil. It's got to be. So, again, it's our innate, I think it's in our DNA to be afraid of anything that we don't know about. So this comment here coming in, is it? I don't know.
Right.
So I don't know.
Okay.
Scott, I'd like to go back a little bit to talk about how your journey began. What question did your pastor ask you many years ago that led you onto this journey?
Wow, you know that. That was it. That was it. And so I was, as somebody asked me, like, so what was your spiritual interest? Where did it arise from? And I said, I came in hot. In this life, I came in hot because when we were raised in a Lutheran church, and the only thing I liked about the church was the sermons, and this is like when I was in 6th, 7th grade, and so we went through the confirmation classes and all that. I was doing all that stuff. And the second year of the confirmation class in the Lutheran church, 8th grade, you were supposed to record, take notes on the sermons and hand in the outline as part of your requirements. Now, I knew about this because I have 3 older brothers and sisters, and they said, look, this is going to happen in 8th grade. But so I started taking notes. I was not a good student, but I started taking notes in 7th grade on the sermons, and I just filed them away. I didn't have to hand them in yet. So I was doing that all year. Then the next year comes, all right, officially have to hand them in. And then I was going through them like, wait a minute, this sermon, he did this sermon last year. Right? And back then, as a kid, like the minister, was like larger than life. He was, with the robes and the stern. He was a very, very nice person, but he had like that stern, a presence about him. And so I didn't want to ask him. And then a couple of weeks later, another sermon popped up that he had done the year before. So it took me weeks to get the nerve to ask him about this, right? So I'm like, I don't know. So at the end of the service, usually pastors are at the door and they greet people on the way out. And I waited for a break in the crowd, and I said, Pastor, I just wanted to know what. I've been doing the things of the sermon, and what is the reason for that? Please, there must be some reason in my mind. There must be some, reason. Maybe we didn't get it. Maybe God wanted to, speak through him again. And he said, Scott, put his hand on my shoulder. This is a tough job. and that was it. That my
That's honest.
life like cracked in half as far as spiritual goes, and I just like, wow, and so then I knew, I kind of like, now it's more on me than on them, like even at that age. And so that kind of started my journey, right there. That's what his response was.
8th grade, 7th grade, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it seems that there's this spirituality that's developing, this shift, but yet in the mainstream media, there's very little mention of spirituality other than religion, as if anything spiritual is confined to stone buildings. Why is that, and what's taking so long for this bigger shift to awaken?
Yeah, I think that I think it's a fear factor. We all want to go to church and be told what to do. I'm told, and that, growing up with that paradigm is that you're told by religious leaders what should be done.
Right.
If 80% of the world is Judeo-Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, or Hindu, so they all are, and that's what people will say, that this is what I am. Now, whether they go to church or not, anyway. But so there is a organized religion, is prevalent in the world, and so you have that hierarchical, thing in most cases, and certainly it varies in the practices and religions. But so we have that in a sense ceiling to go through, to say like, no. I don't have to rely on someone else to teach me. I can find God within, and that is the shift. The more people meditate, the more people that are leaving the organized religions to go their own way. They're realizing this, that that the kingdom of God is within you. And it was all there. It was always there, It's just that for some reason, whether it's, whether organized religion wanted to, thought were so zealous of that they had the truth and they had the way and this is how you do it, or whether it was a power grab, to keep people under their thumb, certainly the fear-based religions of damnation and torture, forever and ever.
Wait, are there any religions that aren't fear-based?
Hinduism, I guess what
okay.
you're saying. Yeah, Hindu and Buddhism certainly, and Buddhism may or may not be a religion, depending on. But in any case, there are spots, and there are wonderful people and ministers within these religions that do teach the love of God, the unconditional love, blah blah blah. But why? I think because I think it's more of a temperature change in a sense, a raise in frequency, where people will just start getting it. I was listening to a podcast the other day. It had two people were channeling one.
That's interesting.
One non-physical group of many entities, and the question came to them from the host, like, well, why? I feel like I'm gaining more insight. I'm being able to pick up on things and people's emotions and seeing things about the future. And they said, that's because the world is ascending. And that veil between our physical reality and our spiritual realities are thinning. And that's, in a sense, it sounds so simplistic, but people will just get it. They'll just start getting it more like, wait a minute, I'm getting a impression about someone that needs help, and I don't know where that information came from, but I'm going to help them. And it's that kind of getting it and embracing it that could make the change. But
Yeah, it seems that we're approaching a tipping point. Maybe is
Rob, microphone.
okay. We're approaching this tipping point, but still there's a strong backlash that exists too. That seems to be I don't know if balancing is the right word, but slowing things down.
Yeah. Well, okay. So a couple things. One is that in looking about, this change that's happening in the ascension. Now, you can hear it. And part of the awkwardness of this book is that I introduce modern day spiritual sources. And what are they? They are people who channel spirits, who channel angels, which I kind of introduced in the other book, and also people who channel extraterrestrials. And I'm sure you know about these. And what's amazing to me is there's dozens of people who have been doing this for 30 and 40 years, and they have books out, and it's all out there, for just
There may be hundreds.
Yeah, yes, but and so and then that's what I started looking into. Dolores Cannon's work,
Right.
It's hypnosis, but it's a certain type, and you have in any case, the idea of channeling and getting information from non-physical sources is a source of information. So when you look into that, when you start wading into that, you see a theme of ascension, and then along with that theme of ascension of humanity is a turbulent time. Is a time where transformation certainly, and in that transformation comes a lot of resistance. Some would go as far as to say the dark energies know that their time is limited and they're fighting back, and it kind of points to that. The other source of information is the yugas. You familiar with the yugas, Kali yugas?
That word's familiar.
Yeah. So in ancient Hinduism, everybody knows. NASA, science knows that the earth wobbles, right? It's like a top that's wobbling. And if you take a beam of light and shoot it out of the top of the North Pole, that wobble, millions of light years away, will create a circle. And that circle takes 29,000 years to make one revolution. It's 1 degree every 70 years.
Jeez.
So ancient Hinduism came up with yugas. They said, okay, that circle is made up in 4 parts, and that we're at the bottom of we're at the end of the second part, the Kali Yuga.
Got a long ways to go.
And then and we're going into the Sate Yuga. And what they said is that it's a time that from the first half was a difficult time of darkness and fighting and, not really understanding who we are, our divine nature, et cetera. The second half is going to be where we embrace that. We embrace our unity. We embrace the good things, love and light and all that. And that in that time, coming out of the Kali Yuga, the bottom, shifting into the next Sati Yuga, is going to be a time where there's a lot of moral decay, a lot of corruption, a lot of bad things that are going to be worked through.
And that's where we are now.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so they go, okay, ancient Hinduism, fine. Lisa Royal Holt, who I don't know if you know her.
I know her name.
She's one of these sources that have channeled a Sasha, a Palladian female, 5th dimension Palladian female, and another non-physical source, Germain. Again, for 30 or 40 years, been writing books.
This is like the Seth books by Jane Roberts.
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
60s,
Yeah. So in her books, one of them, she says that she was channeling Satya or Sasha, and Sasha said that, and she didn't say it like that, like, but she said that we're coming out of the dormant winter phases, and going into a spring and summer. And during that time, there's going to be a lot of turmoil. And so it's that type of thing. Neil Donald Walsh agrees with this and said that we are in the middle of a storm before the calm.
Is that what the ETs are waiting for? The calm?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, because, some people say, and some of it is from my own, I have, some contact with my own. Some of it is just, I've done massive readings. But some people say that the ETs are not interested in planet Earth until we get our act together, in a sense. One, I don't know if you've heard of Bashar. So one, I love one quote that was given to him. Is like, why would we want to land our ships in an insane asylum where all the inmates have guns?
Yeah, good point. Good point, Bashar.
Yeah. So, and another Pleiadian quote was, humans want to reach for the stars, but often they can't reach for the hand of those that need them.
Wow.
So they're, in a sense, waiting. Some people would say that they don't want to get involved with Earth because we're so messed up, emotionally. We're still fighting. We think this separation that we see, and the good and the bad, and that we're still stuck in that. We can't see beyond that and capture our unity. But and that they don't want to be contaminated. Like, we don't want that stuff, anywhere near us, type of thing. So that could be it. And that's what we have to remind ourselves, that the ETs, because some people say, well, why haven't they been around? They're so advanced. Why did they help us? And like, no, they're waiting for us to mature.
To help ourselves.
And to help ourselves. They're not gods. They're not gonna be the gods that we've all been used to, heard about growing up. Somebody save us. They're not our saviors. No, they're our colleagues, our family members, and they're waiting for us to kind of get it, before they start interacting with us on a regular basis.
Have you had contact?
Yeah. So what happened for me was, so I kind of help out with another podcast called A Psychic Story, and that was my co-author of the Angel book, Nicole Bigley. And every now and then, we'd have guests on, and there was one witch that was on, a Wiccan, a witch. She's like, she was a wonderful person. And I wasn't involved with the interview, but I listened to it. And she introduced scrying to me. Do you know what scrying is? Do you think you're listening? Yeah. So you take the mirror and a candle,
right,
and you just start writing. I'm like, well, I'm going to try this. And so, sure enough, this dialogue just came out, and it was all very positive. It was very lively. They spoke, it whatever it was, it said we were so happy, and they were telling me things about what was going on in my life and encouraging me, everything positive. And so after about 4 weeks of doing this, on and off, I was wondering, and I couldn't ask back. It wasn't it was a monologue from them. It wasn't a dialogue. And so I was just wondering, like, who are these? What is this? And so I'm sure they picked up on that. And so one time I was doing my thing, and it said, "We are the Pleiadians."
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, okay. Then that's it. So I've been with them for about a year, a little over a year.
Do you write in your handwriting or by computer?
No, for some reason I don't like it. It just feels better handwriting. I don't know why.
My handwriting is indecipherable these days. So
yes. So somebody. My handwriting is HIPAA compliant. Nobody could understand, but I know what it is.
Yeah.
But And then
Scott,
sometimes, yeah.
Scott, do you see a connection between spirituality then and extraterrestrials? What about ETs and the angels? Is there a connection there too?
Absolutely. It's all part of they're all part of the spirit team,
Okay.
in a sense. They're non-physical. They're different, and from, my understanding is that as the physical universe was being, developed, created, first, planets, this, that, animals, humans, and then a separate. Then the angels were created as a separate item, in a sense. They were never incarnated. They're kind of hardwired to source, to love. May or may not have free will. That's a big debate among a lot of religions, but basically, the angels are a very high vibrational, spiritual entity, and that they are different from us. But at the same time, our galactic neighbors are all we're hybrids of them. So in a sense, angels, ETs are more like us. Angels are angels. One of, I think, Dolores Cannon's subjects, she asked about, are there archangels in your world? And they said, the answer was, we have spirit, we have spirit archetypes that are much like angels, that we call them different names. But yes, they're a much higher level vibrational and a higher connection to source. So in my, I consider my spirit team comprised of, deity, Jesus, certainly part, and ascended masters and past loved ones, and then ETs. I can meet with them all, and they're a different feel. You get a different feel, like they're different. Some people would say vibrational level. Who knows? But when I hear the Palladians coming through, it's definitely different from when I'm interacting with the angelic realm.
Just real quick, because I started to mention this earlier, but maybe it fits in here. But when you'd mentioned the September Senate, or this September congressional, the UAPs, I don't think it got mentioned. I don't think it came up in that hearing, but shortly, I believe it was just shortly before that, there was a congresswoman that, to my knowledge, brought up for the first time, like I said, that I know of, that she's seen evidence of interdimensional beings, and I just don't think I've ever heard anybody say.
She said this in Congress?
Not in Congress.
In the hearing.
No, it was prior to that, and it was a congresswoman. I can't think of her name at the moment.
Yes.
But to my knowledge, that's the first time I've ever heard any kind of any official use interdimensional being.
Yeah. Well, just a couple of my thoughts about that. There are some unidentified spiritual entities that may or may not look like humans, or this and that. Some people have said, well, they must be interdimensional, or there's some ET civilizations that are non-physical. They're just they're in the higher living in the higher dimensions, and they don't reside in physical bodies, but our physical universe. But so the one idea, and part of the awkwardness of my book is to say that to bring in the idea that we all are multidimensional beings, and I really try and point out that we are stuck right now we're in a three-dimensional box, right? We have, we have our physical senses, we have length, width, height, and time, and a Mikio Kaku, physicist. Yeah, he had this one example. Like if he was looking as a kid, he was looking at a fish in a pond, and he said, "Well, the fish, can look. They have eyes on each side of their head. They can look to the left, look to the right. They can look forward and backward, but really up isn't part of their world, And he said, so if you pick up that fish out of that water, all of a sudden they're seeing beings that can move around without fins, and they could breathe without gills, and a whole different universe. And I thought what a great illustration that, that says, hey, what we see right here, that's just part of it. And that, and then I go into different dimensional models, about, then there's a few of them out there, but I just kind of say, here are some samples of dimensional models. And then Barbara Hanclough, who wrote a
Boy, she's been around for a long time.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And in her book, The Alchemy of the Nine Dimensions, I mean, I ate that up. And so I kind of followed that to say, like, here's how because she presents a more tangible nine-dimensional model. And then she and her husband provide meditations on experiencing the different dimensions. And then I go into piercing the veil, talking to and reviewing like NDEs and near-death experiences and people who transcend this physical world, and then meet with other dimensional people. So in a long way, talking around that topic of multidimensional people, in a sense, I think we all are to some extent.
So I just want. I'm sorry, Rob. Just real quick, because I think that koi pond example by Michio Kaku is in hyperspace. And if for some reason anybody listening to this podcast has ever read Hyperspace, amazing book. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
all his books are amazing.
Yes. But
so the concept of there's also the concept of a higher dimensional Earth, and you write actually about an upcoming new Earth. I wonder if that could be a higher dimensional.
Yeah, well, so the higher dimensions, we can experience a higher dimension many times by the thoughts that what we do. You enjoy and take in a beautiful sunset. You have a romantic dinner. You have those high, pure, loving thoughts. That's a fifth dimensional type of thing. It's when we're like that all the time that we can transcend. And so there's a lot of different talk about the new Earth, and maybe it's already happening. Maybe it's already split. Maybe we're involved with that now, and that we'll just won't notice and focus in on the bad stuff, in a sense, the darker energies, and then we'll kind of be living in that fifth dimensional Earth. I don't know. There's so many.
Can we leave those behind that want to focus on negativity?
Well, that's what one perspective is that, they'll be, they're not going to be destroyed. They're just going to be living amongst themselves in their own little place in the universe.
Right. Yeah.
So here's another kind of random thought on it. How are we going to, as a population, as humanity, going to get to that point? Because there's no way, there's no path to get there from here. So, it could be that as more people meditate on the planet, that people will just start seeing it. They'll just see each other as their brothers and sisters, and like, no, why are we doing this? What, or, and I don't know, or it could be a cataclysmic event, solar flare, earthquake.
Sometimes it seems like the cataclysms are what shock people.
Yeah.
Out of their stupor or whatever it is that they're in.
Yeah, I forget what author said that, but it said that humans, an author that knows a lot about a lot of different extraterrestrial civilizations, and they said humans, some civilizations are, you know what, we're going down a bad road. Let's change now. Let's move forward. But humans, no, we gotta go till we're at the brink of destruction before we make a major change like this. So I don't know. I just, obviously you don't, hope not, but
maybe that's our individual and cultural path that we have to experience something like this in order to grow.
Could be.
Reach the
Yeah, but I mean, if you die in it, what's the point?
Well,
but then
it goes back to your cosmology.
That's true.
This is one life of 1,000,
right,
for you, Trish. So,
Thousands.
this is, hey, I was on Earth. You go with your buddies and a million years from now, hey, I was on Earth when the whole thing went down.
When the whole thing went up.
But it's these types of ideas are, I think are important. They're coming to fruition. They're becoming more, I think will becoming more commonplace.
Well, it's funny. About 15 years ago when we got our first dog, or maybe it was 20, we'd be at the dog park and I'd say to somebody, do you know what synchronicity is? And nobody knew. Now people know.
Yes.
So there has been a growing awareness of certain things.
And also, and also at the dog park, sometimes we meet somebody who has lost a loved one, and that's why they started coming to the dog park. And Trish always asks, have you been in contact? And the amazing thing, people say yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, and with synchronicity, the band The Police certainly popularized.
Right.
That's true. But I mean, even with music, people really didn't know what synchronicity was.
Right.
They understood coincidence,
Right.
but not synchronicity.
Yeah, and a lot of people, when people ask me, like, well, so, all right, you didn't know about angels, and then now you're kind of into, you kind of have a communication with them. How does it all start? And I said, it starts with just looking around your life, throughout your day. Ask for something, or be in your prayers or meditations, you're looking for something. That is going to appear somewhere, but it may be an unusual place.
Yeah.
But just be aware. And then that to me is like a great way to take a baby step to say, like, yeah, I do have intuitive abilities. There is another part of me that's beyond what I ever thought I could be,
It may be the dog park.
Yes. Go to the dog.
Go to the dog park. Ask questions.
So what exactly is piercing the veil that you mentioned, and how can people experience that?
Yeah. So the piercing the veil concept came to Barbara Henclau. It's been around, the veil between physical and spiritual. And in her dimensional model, the fourth dimension is a veil that's, as spirit slows down its vibrations to come and interact with humans. And where we are living now, it's a slower, denser environment that where separation is rampant. There is a you and a me and a black and a white and this and that. When you go through the veil into the higher dimensions of fifth and beyond, then things are much more unified and oneness and love and light. And so piercing the veil is like, okay, how do we as humans living in the third dimension pierce through that? And so I go through the different ways you can do it. And, one is, some people are just born with it. They just have, I don't know if you've known or spoke to somebody. They just, I knew, when I was a kid, I knew that I was someplace else, and then now I'm here, And so you have that. You have trauma. A lot of people who have trauma and traumatic childhood experiences develop a sensitivity that goes outside of themselves into other dimensions to maybe talk to angels or spirits or past loved ones. The third way is learning, which is what I have done. You just learn and you practice and you take a mediumship class and you meditate. And then another way is near-death experiences. And then it was so hard because I tried to keep each chapter fairly concise. But once I went down the road of near-death experiences, 50 years of research, starting with Moody's book, and nothing new has come up, or contradictory from when Moody first wrote it.
That's true.
And so you get into that and you start, and for people who are looking for tangible explanations of at least their life after death is, what's beyond this physical veil. You get wonderful, just wonderful things to do and learn in that time. And then the other one is psychedelic drugs, that you can do, and lots of, controlled environment, therapeutic environment. Don't any, no, I don't want any of your listeners going out and experimenting on their own. But certainly, and it's coming into play more in psychology with dealing with trauma, ketamine and either ashwagandha and other types of things.
MDA.
So, Yeah, yeah. So piercing the veil to me is experiencing, to moving out of this physical environment and getting, and it, just like the NDEers say, they see things that it's more real than this. The colors are more real. There's a oneness. There's a peace. They just get that, and so that's what I call piercing the veil.
Yeah. Well, what about OBEs?
Also,
OBEs would be like the near-death experiences without dying, right?
Yes, yes. And that's it. The whatever way you perceive, another part of you, a part of this is certainly legitimate.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you can also talk to a medium, because I've met some really good mediums who do have a concept of what the other side is like.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes their ideas differ, but it's
that's a really good thing. Now I got to revise the book now.
Right, yeah.
Well, it's funny. I somebody told me about this local medium, so I contacted her and went to Barnes and Noble because I had lost my sister a couple of years ago. And I said, "What's she doing?" And she says, "Well, what was it? She needed some rest." I said, "Okay."
Mm-hmm.
She has 3 sons. She was an RN. I said, "Well, what does that mean? I mean, what do you do in the other side? I mean, do you go to cafes? Do you, you know what, And she says, "Well, I don't know, Trish." She said, "I haven't died yet." And so I mean, not in this life, but
yeah. There's lots of people.
Different concepts.
Yeah, lots of different. Like we have hobbies, we have things to do, and I don't know.
Maybe you experience what you want to experience or what you believe you're going to experience. If you think that the afterlife is going to church, you start to go to church every day until you start to think, well, maybe there's something more than this.
Well, that's the thing. In Neil Donald Walsh's series, that model is you learn each lifetime. And then when you get to where you've learned and you've matured and your heart is pure, you can decide to forget all about it and start at zero again. Mm-hmm. Or you can become a spirit guide, for those who have not, in the physical world. But he said, that most people will reincarnate back to do the life that they just lived over again. Like they just I don't know, but it kind of, I could see how that could happen. Like, oh, I should have done this, I shouldn't have done that. Who knows,
Yeah. And maybe.
Well, I asked this psychic too. I said, "What happens to animals?" I mean, we have our backyard is like a pet cemetery. All the cats we've had and everything. It's like, I keep thinking Stephen King's going to walk out. Hey, guess what, guys? It's spooky.
Yeah. Well, they're spirits. I mean, they're sentient beings, and people, say that you'll meet them, when you cross over, you'll meet your loved ones and you meet your pets. And
I hope the pet thing is true.
Yeah.
I'm going to be mad if it's not.
I know. I think they have more pure hearts than humans.
I think so too.
In general.
Yeah.
That was that. Well, I was just going to say, obviously not my current dog, but my Tyler, previous pet was that was his dedication when he passed away. On social media was I used the quote from Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, that out of all the people, I'm paraphrasing, out of all the people I met through all my travels, his soul was the most human. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I put an epitaph on my mother's grave. And said, it says, "Until we meet again." And my sister said, "Oh, what do you mean by that?"
Yeah.
Every family has skeptics, Rob.
Yeah.
So your book, actually, you go into 3 chapters on consciousness. And what about unity consciousness? What do you mean by that?
So it's a new term, but not a new idea. It's and I talk about the certainly the religious traditions. If you look for that, you'll see, that we are all one, that we are part of one, but the practice, is much different. Obviously, they practice separation and hierarchy and this and that. But so when you look at the origins of humanity from a few different positions, you'll say, well, we all came from source. Everyone kind of agrees with that. We all came from source. And so it's a return to that idea, is unity consciousness. And that is the goal, stated goal, of where humanity needs to be. And the unity consciousness thing is not, it just means you acknowledge that we all came from the same place, that we all have a divine nature, and that our individuality is much like, the hand, the figure of the hand. We each have a finger on the hand, we have individual fingers, but we're all, they're all part of the hand. And so that idea is a very important part in our ascension or awakening nature. And science is catching up. If you see, you'll hear bits and pieces now about, maybe consciousness is really the only thing in the universe and we're just a part of it. And then some people go on that we're all, is this just a computer simulation?
Right.
That's the idea in a sense, but I'm making it a little bit more ET focused or IT focused. But it's the idea that, consciousness, even science may come to the conclusion that we are all part of one network and we're all part of one. Aaron Schrodinger said that the number of minds in the universe is one, and he's a physicist, pretty famous. But so it's that idea, and to me, if you grasp that and really feel that, then you do look at others, even people you hate and we think are evil. You say, hey, we're all part of the same family. We're all part of the same structure. And we may not get what's going on now, but maybe when we move on into another dimension beyond this physical life, maybe then we'll get it.
To me, though, I just want to make one comment. When you talk about source, people have so many different concepts of what source is.
Yeah.
Some people say it's God. Other people say it's this. They're all different.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's 4,200 distinct religions in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can go the gamut. And even within the religions in Christianity, somebody just 2 years ago said there's like 30,000 variations of Christianity. So, yeah. So, yeah, source, God, what is it? Some of the modern day spiritual sources that I've been talking about, they all go back to a single source, the single consciousness, the I am, the I am concept. And this fellow, Matthias de Stefano, I don't know if you know, if a young
I know that name.
Kind of philosopher, spiritualist, he said that it's when the I am asked itself the question, what else can I become? And that's the moment that the universe expanded, because it is like, what else can I become? And then bam, that was it. And then, humanity kind of comes out of that. But realizing, it's a very well-known quote, I think Wayne Dyer's credited to it, that we're all, spiritual beings having a temporary physical life.
Right.
Do ETs are they spiritual?
Meaning?
Do they have spiritual beliefs? ETs?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I say absolutely, from when you go through dozens of these modern day spiritual sources, say, yeah, they're really more like us. Even some people say that the Zeta Reticuli, the grays, which are commonly known as grays, they are future us, maybe a billion years ahead of us. And the reason that they almost extinguished themselves because they knew that they observed that emotions were messing up their lives and their world, much like the Vulcans, openly
Spock.
make that connotations that, but they almost extinguished themselves, and they're coming back to Earth to get our DNA, get our experience, to revive the emotionality in them, in their species, in their civilization, to kind of get back to it. But anyway, that was kind of a subject.
Yeah. So, but funny, 30 years ago, there were a lot of reports of people being abducted by aliens. These are very hard to document. But one of the things but the reports from people were very similar in a lot of ways. And one of the things why are you doing this? I mean, they're taking people out of their beds up to their crafts, putting them, stripping them out and putting them on
tables and
probing them, right. And one of the questions is, why are you doing this? And they said, because we have the right to do this, which kind of is the sense that they are us,
And so one, let me go back to Lisa Royal Holt in her book, Preparing for Contact. She says that it's her statement that any physical so-called abduction, it was either prearranged just before we enter this life, or through our subconscious, which is where most of the ET communication is happening now, is at our subconscious and unconscious level, and it's kind of prearranged that way. But I think it goes back to that fear thing. I read an article about a guy who interviewed a fellow that was involved with some abductions, and I think 3, and they were all bad, And so, this guy that he was interviewing said that, I think that the reason why they're doing this is because they want to get inside our minds so they can take over the human race. Yeah. And this guy was an award-winning journalist, and I like, screw this. I'm going to write back. I'm
really.
like, why do you go to the point that that these are bad? Do you believe you're reporting that this guy said this? It serves no purpose. I mean, maybe more responsible approach would be to find out what happened, what did this guy see, and let us make up our minds. But to promote fear like that, it really starts getting me mad, especially with the ETs, because from the vast majority of people that are in contact with ETs now and have been in the past, they say, there are bad actors.
Just like there's bad actors.
But not just like human, because these are like in the single percentage points. Humans, I wouldn't say. I'd say much more, maybe 50%. I don't know. But so that's kind of a pet peeve I have.
Yeah, but
it's fun. I was just going to tell, a few years back in 1987, we were writing for Omni magazine, and we got to go to a UFO conference where Bud Hopkins and Betty Hill were the guest speakers. So we ended up spending a weekend pretty much with the two of them. And I found Bud Hopkins was always very, let's go do this. There was a woman who had called in on a radio show who had been, it's back in the days when the National Enquirer had a huge Christmas tree in Lake Worth outside their office, and she'd been abducted and taken up past the Christmas tree. And so anyway, he went and, regressed her. And we got to watch the regression, and it was interesting. And he never said, did they hurt you? Or, it was nothing. He didn't promote fear. I don't think.
Yeah. I think also now there's very few reports of people being abducted now. I mean, Whitley Strieber says there's not.
Well, he said there's none.
Yeah,
but he told us.
Yeah. So that phase has seemed to move on. But this woman Trish talked about, who was abducted from her house in Lake Worth and next to the National Enquirer. And they had this huge Christmas event there, and I think in like an 80-foot tree or something that was decorated.
All decorated.
And I remember Bud asking her. She said she pointed to the Christmas tree to them, and Bud said, "What was their reaction?" And she said, they weren't impressed.
I mean, no, we're just taking you, lady. That's for the Christmas tree.
One analogy I like to think about, I was watching some show. It's a modern day TV series, I guess, but it was based in, the settlers going out into the West, and they had their horse-drawn wagons, and they're all, slopping around in the mud trying to build their cabins and this and that. And I got, okay, suppose you take that person, that group of people, and stick them into Times Square, present day. Like, they're going to get freaked out. Like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
But even at that, they'll see people like them walking around and stuff. But still, they'll be overwhelmed by the lights and the sounds and whatever. Now, suppose that, advanced civilizations, hundreds of millions of years, 500 million years, maybe 1 billion years down the road. So, us trying to grasp what they're like, is very difficult. And we often try to project our own, what we think of, maybe he's hungry. Let's make him some meat. No, it's totally different.
Get him some yogurt.
Yeah, yogurt. That's what you need. You look gray. You need some meat in you.
So how can people prepare for the individual awakening and interacting with ETs? If that's what's
so I have 2 chapters on that, and I go into detail, and I present a protocol by a fellow Marty Rawson, who I met through a podcast. He was a guest, and he's just a great, plain speaking, honest guy who had one of the time gaps, where he was missing for like 3 hours when he was a teenager, I think. Yeah. And then later on in his life, through different scenarios, came downloads of information about a tremendous amount of things. And then he's interacted with several representatives from a few different ET civilizations. And he just taught me that it's safe. Like, you can be safe. These people aren't out to eat our brains, And so I have his protocol. But before that, I have a chapter on preparing for contact. And I look at a variety of authors and present, their kind of findings and how to do this. Mm-hmm. And so there's, the biggest thing is fear, that we have to address the fears in our lives. And Sasha, the Palladian female through Lisa Roy Holt, was saying that is the biggest barrier is fear. And that fear of the unknown, is not necessarily fear outside of ourselves. Mm-hmm. It says, they point it to fear inside in our shadow work. If you're familiar
Very
with
Jungian.
Yes. It's a direct reference to the shadow work, that we have a cohesive emotional, we do the best we can. You can't cure yourself, but just make yourself aware of the things about yourself that you don't like and accept yourself in a full manner. Right. And then you will be better able to connect. Because, so the example that Sasha provided was that it's interesting. They presented the humans have 3 levels of mind. You have the conscious state, the subconscious, and the unconscious. And the analogy that they have is like, suppose you're in a room and somebody's speaking in front of the room and you're in the back. You can see their head and shoulders, and you can hear them, right? So you can get information that way. If you're sitting maybe midway up, maybe you can see part of their torso. Maybe you can see their hands moving. And some gestures that you couldn't pick up before just looking at the head and shoulders. And then if you're sitting in the front row, you can see their feet. You can see, are their legs crossed? Are they moving around? Whatever. Mm-hmm. And so what was explained is that three minds, and that the ETs can see, when they look at us, they see all 3 levels all at the same time. Mm-hmm. So if we are struggling with things within ourselves and our unconscious and our shadow work, it's going to look like a massive, like just like a fog of,
Right.
of disjointed energy. And so the idea there is to do your shadow work, and then do physical preparation.
Uh-huh.
Same thing: diet, exercise.
Right.
Keep your body moving, and then do some cleansing and clearing, and maybe do a protocol of your own, make an altar in your home, that type of thing. And then there's some things you can say. There's some chants you can do, and there's a lot of different ones.
Yeah,
But,
Scott, we're coming to the end of our hour now. Can you quickly tell us what God is?
Stop, Rob. In the last minute.
You got 30 seconds.
Stay tuned for next week.
Tell people how they could find your website.
Okay.
Not about God, but about how to find you.
This, and I'm sure you can take this out, but when would this air? Would this
John?
air?
Oh, yeah. What is today? October 8th. Potentially 2 weeks from now.
Okay, 2 weeks. Okay.
Well, 2 weeks, or it'll be 2 weeks from Sunday.
So
It's
would that
coming
be
Sunday.
that'd be early? Would it be the 15th of November?
I think it would be slightly after that.
Okay. That's good. That's my answer. Okay. Well, so you can reach me at angelandtraining.org. That's my website. I have my other books there as well. And then I have the awkwardawakening.com is a website to find out about this book coming out. It's available in audiobook format at Audible. It's available on Kindle and Amazon as well, and also Barnes & Noble and paperback version.
Right now.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So
It was great having you again.
Yeah, we got to
Thank
have you
you.
back, Scott.
Oh.
We need to find out what Rob just asked you.
It's like old friends. I feel so
really is.
Well, and
great hosts, and John.
And just so you know, yeah, it looks like it would be the 19th when we post this. So.
Okay, perfect. Then the right now.
Do you have a new book coming? Another book coming out? Or you're working on?
Oh, so interesting you say that. So when I had a ad hoc reading with the person who told me about this Awkward
Akashic
Awakening,
record.
and she said, by the way, they're telling me there's 2 more coming out.
Going to be busy.
And I said, what are they? And they go, you don't need to know that yet.
Okay. All right.
That's what it is. That's my life, right? I have no idea what's going on.
Well, welcome to the club.
Really. We're all human.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, this is
thank you.
great. Thanks so much.
God bless.
Yeah, I know.
Good night.
Thanks for joining the Mystical Underground. Visit www.themysticalunderground.com for the latest blog post and book info. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app. Listen to the podcast at podcast.themysticalunderground.com. Follow Trish and Rob on Instagram at Trish and Rob McGregor. Follow us on Twitter at The Mystic Cast. Send email to podcast@themysticalunderground.com. And until next week, thank you for listening and stay mystical.